The following episode was made possible by a contribution from Colossal Games. Western Legends from Colossal Games is what's known as a sandbox kind of game. Now, what that means is it's very open. You can do a lot of different things. You're not really constrained to do any certain things. You can go the path of the good guy and you can be a marshal. You can go the path of a bandit and you can go basically become a wanted figure. Lots of different things to do. You can play poker, you can have duels, you can rob banks. Lots of really cool things here. So let me show you how the game is played, and then we're going to peek in as Dad and his friends play the game, and then we'll tell you what we think. I have this set up for a 3-player game. The first thing we're going to do is each player is going to be dealt 2 character cards. Now we have a pretty good sized stack of these, and what they're going to do is they're going to get 2 and then they're going to choose which one they want to start with. Now when they do start, on the back side it's going to show where that character is actually going to start on the map and then what their starting bonuses are. So let's just say that I picked Kit Carson. He is going to start in the Sunny Hills Mine. The starting bonus is he's going to have 2 poker cards, 1 upgraded revolver, and a miner's map. So he's going to start with an upgraded revolver, and what that means is we're going to flip it over to the other side. Then at the end of the game, it's going to be worth 1 legendary point, and then you can see it's got text down here at the bottom, which says, after cards are revealed in a fight, decrease the value of a card played against you by 1. So it's going to give him a little bit of an advantage. And what he'll do is he will place that in the weapons section on his player board. He's also going to start with one of the miner's maps. Now this is a item that he's going to put on the item slot on his player board, and you can see that it says after you prospect for gold, you can re-roll 1 of your prospecting dice, because there's a lot of things you're going to be able to do in this game. So I'll talk about those actions in a minute. But you can see on the player board there is an area for 3 items, so that would just take up 1 of those spots. So let's talk about the player board for a little bit. So I already showed you the weapon and the item. You have a place for a mount. Now there are 2 mounts that come with the base game. You have a mule and you have a Mustang. Those are going to give you increased movement and maybe even increased capacity to haul gold. So those will go in the mount section. You have an area for money, and then you have an area for gold nuggets. And you can see there are 4 spaces, because unless you have the mule, you can only carry a maximum of 4 gold. This is where your player card will go, and this is where you keep track of your wounds. Now there comes with a little wound marker that does not like to stay on the board. It kind of slides. But as you take wounds, you'll move that along this track, and then you'll notice that not only does it decrease the amount of cards that you can have at the end of your turn, but it's also worth negative points at the end of the game. Now, the player board is double-sided because there is a variant that you can play with legendary points and goals, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. So the phases of play are broken out into 3 parts. You have the start of your turn phase, you have your action phase, and then you have your end of turn phase. Now, the game comes with a really nice player aid, and it kind of shows you everything that you need to know at a glance. So you can see at the start of your turn, you're going to check for the start of a turn effect. Then you're going to gain either $20, draw 2 poker cards, or gain $10 and 1 poker card. And then you can also choose your mount and weapon for this turn, because you can only have 1 weapon and 1 mount in play at a time. Then you have your action phase. You can take 3 actions. Now you can move, which means you can move your character 2 spaces on the board for 1 action. So let's just say that I had a character here, and you can see that there are lines that segment the different parts of the board. So to move from here to here, then I would just go 1, 2, and that would be 1 action. The other thing I can do is I can take a location action, and it says see below. So you can see here are all the different location actions that you can take. You can go to the saloon and play poker. You can go to a ranch and you can either rustle cattle, or you can wrangle cattle. Now, when you rustle cattle, you're going to take one of the two tokens that they have for the different ranches. So you would be up here, either Mesitos Point or over there in the Sunny Hills Ranch. You're going to take one of those and you're going to deliver it to the other ranch. Now, when you wrangle cattle, you're actually going to take cattle and go all the way down to the railroad station. You can go to the general store and you can either purchase other items, upgraded guns, or upgrade the items that you already have. You can go to the cabaret and you can turn money in for legendary points. You can go to the bank. You can deposit your gold nuggets. You can rob the bank. Yeah, so you rob the bank, obviously you're going to be on the bad side. You can go to the doctor's office and you can pay money to heal. Or you can go to one of the mines and roll the nice mining dice and try to get gold. So you can see you can either get gold nuggets, you can get $10, you can gain $10 and re-roll it, or you get nothing. So that's a location action. Now you can also use actions on your cards. Now the poker cards that we have, they're double use. You can use them to play poker, you can use them to fight, and you can use them for their actions. So here's an example of one of those that have an action card. So this is Manhunt, which says move the sheriff up to 3 spaces. If you are a marshal or a wanted player, you get to gain a legendary point. Stick 'em up is a reaction card, and there's certain instances where you can actually have a reaction after like a fight or poker game or whatever. This says after cards are revealed in a fight, play this card from your hand to decrease the value of a card played against you by 2. You can only use 1 stick 'em up per fight. And then here's another type. We have Fool's Gold, which is a bonus. It says this card is considered a gold nugget for all actions and effects. So a lot of different uses for the cards. Another thing that we can do is we can either we can fight another player or a NPC. We can either arrest them if they are on the wanted track. We can duel them, doesn't matter who they are. And we can rob them, and again, it doesn't really matter who they are. And then it will tell you over here in this area how you do each one of those. So sometimes if you do an arrest, you're going to gain a marshal point. If you do a duel, you're going to gain legendary points. And if you rob them, you're going to get their money. On the back side of the player aid, it is the NPC basically effects that happen. So if you fight a bandit, you're going to follow this area. If you're going to rob the bank, you've got to fight the guard. If you play poker, you got to deal with the dealer. And if you encounter the sheriff, that tells you what you need to do there. And if you're not familiar with how to play poker and what beats what, they give you the handy dandy poker hand reference. Now, when you accomplish certain things in the game, you have 2 story decks that you're going to look at. And if you are able to complete one of those requirements, you're going to be able to put your disc on there. And then based on the player count, whenever this card has the certain number of discs, you're going to flip this over and do the action. A lot of times it'll say spawn bandits, but it'll have what the players are able to do. And it says the player who triggered this move, this moves the sheriff up to 3 spaces. So there are 40 of those, and they're in 2 different stacks. So a lot of things that you're going to be able to do with the story element, which adds more theme to the game. I mentioned earlier that we have the 2 tracks. We have the wanted track and the marshal track. So if you're going to try to be the bad guy and you go on the wanted track, whichever spot that you move to is going to give you certain things. So this says activate the sheriff, draw 1 poker card, draw another poker card, and when you end your turn, whatever row that you're in on the wanted track, you are going to gain legendary points at the end of your turn. Now the marshal track is a little bit different. Every time that you move on that, you're going to get one of those benefits. So you can see I gain $20 here, $20 there, 2 legendary points, and then so on. And then at the end of the game, whichever row you're on, you're going to gain legendary points for that. So looking at the rest of the player board, I already told you and showed you how the game board is segmented into the different areas by these lines. So you actually have 2 cities. You have Dark Rock and Red Falls. Now within Dark Rock, you have the sheriff's office, you have the general store, you have the bank, and you have the saloon. So remember, the saloon is where you play poker. The bank, you can rob it or make a deposit. And the general store, you can buy items or mounts, weapons, or you can upgrade what you already have. There are also several locations on the board that are mines. So we have the one down here in Spike's View. We have the one up here between Mosquito's Point and Sunny Hills. And then we have another one down in Cliff Junction. Now, in the city of Red Falls, we have the Cabaret, where you can turn money into legendary points. You have the doctor's office. You have the saloon to play poker. And you also have another general store. Now, the other areas that you see, we have the railroad here. We also have these bandit spots. So that's a bandit spot A, there's a C, there's a B, A, and a C. So the bandits are going to start there unless your character tells you that's where your starting spot is going to be. And anytime that you move into a space with a bandit, you will have an encounter. Same with the sheriff. The sheriff is going to start here in the sheriff's office. He's got the brown base. So if the sheriff or you are ever in the same space, then you will have a sheriff encounter. If multiple players are in the same town and one person initiates a poker game, anyone else that is actually within the border of the town, you'll see there's a dark outline, can actually take a seat at that poker table. Now, before I was talking about how you can fight other players or NPCs. If you are fighting someone else, and so like an NPC, you have a fight deck. Now, the fight deck goes from 2 all the way up to ace, and the player that is not involved to the person's right is going to be able to draw these cards, and most of the time they're probably going to draw 2 cards and choose which one they want to do. Now, if they want the player to lose, they might choose a higher card, but they also might choose a lower card if there's text on that card that might be detrimental to that player. So you can see on the 5 it says the other player in this fight gains 1 wound. If that player defeats a bandit in this fight, they may not choose to gain martial points. So ways that you can kind of mess with the person that you are fighting against, or I should say that you are controlling the NPC against in that fight. There is a goals variant that you can play with. So each character is going to have 4 of those goal cards, and it will show you what you need to do. You're going to draw 3 of these and then discard the other one. And then when you are able to complete that, you're going to put one of the legendary markers on your player board. So to win the game, you need to have the most legendary points. Now, one of the nice things that you can do is you can choose how long of a game that you want. So you've got this little time marker here, and then on the board there are certain spots for marking how long you want the game to be. If you want a short game, you place it on 15, and you'll see that there's a little indicator there. If you want a medium game, you play to 20. And if you want a longer game, you will want to play to 25. Now, I've found that with less players, we actually want to have a longer game or more points, because it seems like with the less players, the faster that you're going to score legendary points. So it kind of evens it out a little bit. The other spot on the legendary track that I want to point out is at 5. You can see there's a big star on there. What happens is when you reach level 5, you can take your player card and you can flip it over to the other side. Now, what this means is now you can start getting this player's bonus. So now that I think I've got pretty much everything covered, because there's so much you can do here, my friend Chris and Dave and I sat down and we played a 3-player game. So what we're going to do is we're going to just kind of pop in on a turn and kind of show you kind of how the game flows. Now, you're not going to be able to see everything that happens in a game during that one turn, just because there's just so much that you can do. But this will kind of show you kind of how the turns flow and really how fast the game actually does play. We're going to jump in and kind of show you what a typical round looks like. I am first player because I have the first player badge. I'm going to get my 3 actions on my turn. I am starting up here. I am Bloody Knife.
Don't forget to take your...
Yeah, so the first thing I'm going to do is I think I can take either 2 poker cards. I can take $20, or I can take a poker card and $10. I think I will take I'm going to take $20.
There you go.
Thank you. So then the first thing I'm going to do, I am at a mine. So I will mine. I get to roll these 2 mining dice. And that means I get 1 nugget and $10. Thanks, sir. I'm then going to move for my second action because I can go through the maces. I can't end my turn there. Yeah, that's still probably the best place to go. Or do I want to go to the bank? You know what? I'm going to go to the bank. So I'm going to go 1, 2 is my second.
Hold on. Is there a segment between the sheriff and...
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
Never mind then.
Yep. And then my third action, I will go 1, 2 to the bank. And I have to be down to 4 cards, which I am. And that is the end of my turn. However, I am on the wanted track. So I will gain 1 legendary point.
All right, started my turn. Let me look and see what I have. I have to get my stuff. And I'm gonna take $20, and then I'm gonna go ahead and my first action, I'm going to go ahead and acquire another cattle. And I think my second action, I'm going to move. I can move up to 3 spaces because I have a mule. So 1, 2. I'm actually going to stop here, and I think my third action, I'm gonna go to the saloon and play poker. And maybe this time I'll do a little bit better, but I have to ante $10, and then the player to my...
So you'll take a card first.
Yes, I'm going to draw a card, and then the player to my right,
Which would be me.
is actually going to draw cards, and we're going to play like Caribbean Stud.
Yeah. Anyone else that was in town could actually join into the poker game if they wanted, but no one is, so I will basically be the dummy player here.
And you're going to go ahead and we're going to put 3 cards out for basically the flop.
3 Queen King.
So I will choose those 2 cards to use. Those are the discards.
Let's see. And I got to play 2 cards. So
Okay, then we reveal.
got a pair of 4s.
A pair of 10s.
So again, I lose. So
As a consolation, though, the
I get
loser.
I get to draw a card, and then
And if he had a 10-gallon hat, he would also get $10.
yes. And so that was the first. I used my 3 actions. I
But this is
took
Chris's
cattle, I
weapons.
moved, and I played poker. So that's my turn.
Okay.
Chris.
I'm going to take 2 poker cards.
I'm gonna stay out of the saloon.
You might be imbibing a little too much before you sit down to the table.
Trying to be a card shark is not working out for my character.
So do want to just point out where we are on the map here. Dave has the yellow base. What's your character, Dave?
My character would be Stagecoach Mary Fields, who, according to her flavor text, was she's a pretty nasty woman. You wouldn't want to get it. I guess she's broken more noses than any other person in central Montana, because she had a bet that $5 and a glass of whiskey said she could knock out any cowboy with a single punch.
Yeah, she's bad news. Chris, who are you playing as?
I have Kit Carson. And Kit Carson has an ability at the end of the move action, you may move 1 additional space. So I move about the same amount as the mule does, which is fantastic without the upgrade.
Yeah, and I am playing as Bloody Knife.
All right, so for my actions, I'm going to move, and then I'm going to mine.
See the mine symbol there?
And because I have a miner's map, I can re-roll.
So he's going to get 2 nuggets. You can carry a max of 4 unless you have a mule.
So that was move, and then mine, and then I'm going to play a card. I'm going to play the Manhunt card, which allows me to move the Sheriff 3 spaces. But I may have miscounted.
The Sheriff is up here in the brown base.
I did miscount. I thought that I could reach. Yeah. That's alright. We're going to move close anyway. 1, 2, 3. Unfortunately, I can't quite make it to the bank. And that is the end of my turn.
All right, so that's what a sample turn looks like, and we'll come back here in a little bit and give our final thoughts. So you can see there's quite a bit of a range here. Chris ended up with 22 points. I ended up with 13. Dave got 4, which most of them came right there at the end.
Yeah, that was...
So Chris will get the Golden Nugget trophy, and then we'll get to what we think. I'm going to start it off and say this is in contention for my game of the year. I love this Western sandbox. So many different things that you can do in your turn. You can choose to be good, and you can try to be a marshal and arrest bad players and take out bandits. You can go bad, and you can rob banks. You can rob other players. Basically all the nasty kind of things that you think you could do in the Old West. You can play poker. You get wounds. You can go to the doctor's office. You pay $10 and you get a shot of penicillin, I guess, and all your wounds go away. You can go to the cabaret and you can have a good time there and convert your money into legendary points. You can go and mine and get gold nuggets that you can then cash in for points and money. You can rustle cattle or wrangle cattle and get points that way. Lots of different things. You even have story cards that are going to not only enhance your game by kind of giving you some background stuff, but they're meaningful. There are actions that happen on the backsides of those cards that may cause duels. I mean, you guys had to fight the Pinkertons. You can get money. There's just so many different things. So that's my thoughts on gameplay. What do you guys think?
So I like this one quite a bit as well. I like the sandbox style. I like the variety of actions that you get to take. From a mechanics standpoint, I think it's very simple, very easy to teach, very easy to understand. I like the simple mechanics of high card wins in battles, those types of things. I like most of what's going on here.
Yeah, because the cards are dual purpose. You can use them for actions, you can use them for reactions, you can use them to play poker, you can use them for resolving your duels, your arrests, whatever, all your fights.
I really like the wanted track and the martial track aspects. So the way that they balance the victory points, wanted track, you get smaller increments of points, but you get them more often. Martial track, you can develop a lot of points over a longer period of time, but you have to invest in it in order to get those.
And you're not locked into either track either, because Chris and I actually started on the wanted track, and then I arrested him, which got him kicked off of there. And then I ended up on the martial track, but Dave, I think you just ended on the martial track.
Yeah, I made an arrest, and there was one other thing that got me on the martial track. I think it was might have been the event card, but this one, my thoughts. I like this one. I got this game a little while ago, and I haven't had a chance to play it because just for various reasons, mostly because of my play group. We haven't had time to try and get this one out, but. My score is low because I usually don't do good in sandbox games because I try to do too many things and I need to stick to doing one thing. I did try to do the one thing by going and playing poker and figure I was going to get cards going in the saloon, but the cards just nothing was working out in my favor. So at the end, I turned in some cattle. I wrangled the cattle, made an arrest to get some points, and I did have some money where my points came going to the store and upgrading my things. So I have my shotgun is known as Badger, and I have Rosinante, my trusty mule, who she was with me there at the end. But I had a fun. Thematically, it's a lot of fun. I enjoyed the theme. Like you said, it's easy to teach. Once we kind of got going and get understanding the flow, it's turns are just like, okay, this is on my turn. I'm going to do this, and this.
And with only 3 actions, your turns go pretty quick. You pretty much know what you're going to do. Most of the time you're doing one of your actions to move. You get into a town or you go someplace and you're doing that location action.
Yeah. I have one play of this with 6 players, and it felt like maybe there was a little bit too much time in between your turns at 6 players, but it also could have been the group that I was playing with that took a little longer. So I really like it at 3 and 4 and 5. I'm not sure about 6. But I think there's some room to play it at 6, especially with knowledgeable players.
Yeah, I've actually played this with 4 and 3 and 2. And with 2, you actually use the Man in Black variant, which he has his own deck. You can see that's actually pretty cool artwork there. And each turn, he gets a turn just like any other player, but you're going to flip the card and you're going to do the actions on there. And most of the time you're moving him, you're interacting with other players based if the Man in Black is in your location.
Yeah, and I think that brings up a good... So I mentioned not sure about 6 players. The nice thing about having 6 players, you have a lot of player characters on the board, so there's a lot more interaction with those characters. Arrests are made, duels are fought, or robbing happens. There's a lot of interaction with the players at the table, so you're not just waiting for your turn to come around. So I think there's some pro and some con at that higher player count.
And I know we didn't show it in our turn that we actually filmed, but there is a lot of player interaction here. I mean, Dave, you had me arrested. I had Chris arrested. We had some battles going on. We fought some bandits. So there's... Talking about the theme, you definitely have that. And like I said, there's a lot of different things that you can really do on your turn. You're not just limited to one thing. But Dave, you did mention a good thing about focusing and trying to do one specific thing. There are characters like Kit Carson's, I think his ability works really well when you're trying to go the mining route because you have the ability to re-roll your mining dice. And having that mule allows you to carry more gold nuggets. So there's, based on the different players, because the game comes with several different players. I mean, we use 3, but we have a bunch of other ones that we could have chosen from. So there's a ton of variety there. Yeah. Components. Let's talk components because the components I think are top notch. These sculpts for the minis are really awesome, and I made a comment about that in our unboxing video that the detail on these guys is really incredible. The dice are nice and chunky.
Yeah, the dice are big and chunky.
The gold nuggets, these are nice. They're plastic, but they're good size. The cubes are wooden. The cards have a nice finish to it. Even the money, I wouldn't call this paper money because it's more like plastic.
They're money cards.
They're money cards, but they have a really good finish. The whole fight deck that we have over there, those are basically about the same type of finish. And then, like I said, you have the poker cards.
There was a linen finish on there. The only... I don't even know if it's really a minor complaint, but I noticed like on ours, the player boards are a little thin and they're starting to warp just a little bit. It's not majorly thing. The one complaint, this wound marker, because I've knocked it off of I think several times. It's a little tiny cardboard thing. This is going to get lost. I'm probably going to upgrade mine. I think I have some red winks at home that I'm just going to use those and slide those over. Something that it's like if I drop it on the floor, it's going to stand out. These other ones, they kind of went under the table a couple times, but.
Yeah, I've knocked mine off several times.
It's relatively minor.
That would really probably be my only complaint with the game is the fact that wound marker is so small and it does slide right off. Mm-hmm. Even the artwork on the boards I think is really cool, and the boards are double-sided. So if you want to play with the legendary point variant, you've got spots for that.
If this is on the screen, I'm sure there's the general store, the card rack. This is pretty nice. I mean, it's in play, keeping the cards sorted. So you don't have to go through different things like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to go over and I'm going to buy a mount. Okay, here's my choices for my mounts right here. and I've got those. Your provisions and items, your weapons and everything. To just have them all, I think that's pretty cool. It looks good when they're stood. So you're always looking like, okay, if I go to the store, here's what my options are available. So I think from a standpoint too, is like set up. This will actually fit in the box. If you keep the box flat, you can leave the cards probably in there. You don't have to worry about putting them away.
Yep, you absolutely can.
Yeah, and that general store is a very thick cardboard, so it's very nice and sturdy. I did notice it shifts a little bit if you try to pick it up by one of the backings, so don't do that. Pick it up by the bottom.
A little touch of glue will fix that.
Yeah, that's true. But the component wise, I really like them.
Yeah, the only notes that I would make again, it's a personal preference. The small cards always kind of bother me. I understand you want to keep a difference between the player hands and the NPC hands, but small cards just are one of those things for me. And then the cattle tokens are a little small, a little difficult to keep track of as well. But the rest of it, I mean, the dice are fantastic. Having the actual nugget styles that Tim mentioned, the sculpts on the figures, and each one is unique. I really like all of those pieces. The snap-ins so that you can replace figures. You can choose your character each time. Really, really nice quality stuff.
Yeah. Final closing thoughts on the game. Personally, like I said, this is in contention for my game of the year. I highly recommend this game. If you like sandbox games, if you like Western games, if you like games that have very strong theme, if you like a lot of player interaction, I got my buddy Hefe that I always talk about. He and I would forsake every other player just to gun each other in the back in this game if we could. And the one game that I played 2-player was actually against him, and we did go after each other. So I always enjoy that. Dave, what do you think? Final thoughts.
I enjoyed the game. Like I said, typically this is, I think in my collection, this would be the only sandbox game that I've had. I've had other ones, Zaya. I had the Uwe Rosenberg game that was Fields of Arla, that was sandboxy. But I enjoyed this. The really neat thing with this is very thematic. There was a lot of thought that was put into this game. There's a lot of cool flavor text, a lot of historical context that's put in here too. It's really easy to play. I mean, I could sit there and see just getting, having an evening of doing a Western theme. If you're into cocktails, little bit of whiskey and have at it. But I think it's a lot of fun. It's definitely something that if you're wanting to have a game that's very thematic and a lot of different options to play to try and gain points, and this would be one that would be worth checking out.
Yeah, I'm in that same boat. I like this a lot. I like the variability of the actions. I think it is going to get several plays as I try to explore the martial track and how do I maximize the martial track versus how do I maximize the wanted track. I like the flavor text. I like the artwork. The artwork's fun, watercolor style artwork. There's a lot to like in this box.
Yeah, there is a lot in this, and for the price point, I don't think you can get much better value than this. I think it retails on Colossal's website for $75. This is every much worth that. Just an excellent production on this, excellent game. Highly recommend it. So that is Western Legends from Colossal Games, and we will catch you guys next time.
Bye.
If you would like to support us, you can visit patreon.com/dadvdaughter.
Like and follow us on Facebook to stay current on our show schedule, sneak peeks at future shows, and to interact with us.